Alright, fellow coin enthusiasts, let's dive deep into the first of our three modern Lincoln cent treasures that might be hiding in plain sight. We're starting with the 2006 Lincoln Memorial Penny. Now, I know what you might be thinking, 2006. That's practically yesterday in coin collecting years. And you're right, with over 5.4 billion pennies churned out that year between Philadelphia and Denver, the overwhelming majority of these coins are worth exactly 1 thin cent. But buried within that massive mountain of copper-plated zinc are some genuine rarities that have sent serious collectors scrambling and have commanded prices that would make anyone take a second look at their pocket change. The 2006 penny occupies a fascinating niche, representing the twilight years of the long-running Lincoln Memorial design before the big bicentennial overhaul in 2009. It's a coin from an era of massive production, yet it holds secrets that only careful examination reveals. The undisputed star of the 2006 penny show is the double die obverse, DDO, particularly from the Philadelphia Mint. This isn't your subtle, need a microscope to see it doubling. We're talking about strong, dramatic doubling that jumps out at you once you know where to look. The magic happens primarily on Lincoln's portrait. Focus your attention on his ear, you'll see a distinct, almost ghostly doubling, like a shadow image slightly offset. The same effect is visible in the intricate details of his beard and hair. Look closely at the letters of "In God We Trust" across the top of the coin. The doubling is often very pronounced there too, especially on the letters TRU. This error occurred during the die-making process itself. When the hub, which bears the coin's design, impresses the image onto the working die, something went slightly askew. Instead of a single, crisp impression, the hub struck the die twice, with a tiny misalignment between strikes. The result? Every coin struck from that flawed die carries that doubled image. What makes the 2006 DDO particularly exciting is the strength and clarity of the doubling. It's not a minor anomaly, it's a prominent feature that transforms an ordinary cent into a significant variety. But Philadelphia wasn't the only source of 2006 excitement. Over at the Denver Mint, a different kind of error caught collectors' eyes, the D/D repunched mint mark (RPM). On these coins, if you look closely at the tiny D under the date, you might see traces of a second, slightly offset D punched into the die before the final one. It looks like the mint mark was stamped, then stamped again just a hair off kilter. These varieties weren't spotted immediately. They slipped out into circulation, unnoticed for years, allowing some to get worn and damaged before their significance was recognized. This delayed discovery is part of what makes hunting for them so compelling. They had time to mix into the general population. So, what's the real-world value of these 2006 anomalies? Let's talk numbers. For the Philadelphia double die obverse, the story gets interesting quickly. A pristine, uncirculated example graded MS-65 red, meaning full original copper color and no wear, has fetched upwards of $1,150 at major auctions. That's over 100,000 times face value. Even circulated examples, say in extremely fine, XF40, condition where the doubling is still clear but the coin shows light wear, regularly command prices between $75 and $300. The key factors are the strength of the doubling and the overall eye appeal. A coin with bold, distinct doubling will always outperform one with weaker doubling, even if the condition is similar. Now, the Denver D/D RPM might not reach the dizzying heights of the Philly DDO, but it's no slouch. Top-tier examples in MS-65 red have crossed the auction block at around $325. Circulated examples with a clear repunched mint mark can still bring $50 to $100, which is phenomenal for a coin you could potentially find in a roll from the bank. These prices have shown a steady upward trend over the past few years as more collectors become aware of these varieties and actively seek them out. It's not the meteoric rise of some classic rarities, but it's solid, consistent growth driven by genuine collector demand and the inherent scarcity of these error coins relative to the billions of regular 2006 cents produced. The gap between a common 2006 penny and one of these varieties is vast, and the market recognizes that scarcity. Here's where the story gets really fascinating: the discovery timeline. Unlike many famous era coins that were found almost immediately after minting, the significant 2006 double die obverse wasn't widely documented and recognized until around 2011, a full 5 years after the coins were released. This delay is crucial. It meant millions of these coins entered circulation, were spent, saved in jars, or rolled by banks, completely unknown to the collecting community. Imagine that, for half a decade, these valuable coins were just pennies. The discovery itself is a testament to the dedication of sharp-eyed collectors. It wasn't a big announcement from the mint, it was an individual, probably someone just like you or me, meticulously examining their change. They noticed something odd about a 2006 cent, maybe the ear looked a bit off or the lettering seemed fuzzy. Instead of dismissing it, they investigated further, comparing it to other 2006 cents, checking reference materials, and eventually confirming it was a new, significant double die variety. This kind of grassroots discovery is the lifeblood of numismatics. It proves that even in the 21st century, with all our technology, new finds are still possible, and sometimes the most valuable coins are hiding in the most ordinary places. Now, let's talk about condition. It's absolutely paramount when valuing these 2006 varieties. The difference between a circulated example and a pristine uncirculated one isn't just a few dollars, it can be hundreds, even over $1,000. Take the Philadelphia DDO again. An MS-65 red, with its full, blazing copper luster, no contact marks, and razor-sharp details, might sell for that $1,100 plus figure. Drop down to an MS-63 red, still uncirculated but maybe with a few minor bag marks or slightly less vibrant color, and the value might have to $500 to $700. Now, consider a coin that's seen some use. An about uncirculated, -58 Australian dollars, piece, showing just the faintest trace of wear on the highest points like Lincoln's cheekbone or the columns of the memorial, but still retaining most of its luster, might bring $200 to $400. Once you get into circulated grades, the value drops more steeply but remains significant for the variety. An extra fine, XF45, coin, with light, even wear over the entire design but all major details clear and the doubling still readily visible under magnification, could be worth $100 to $200. A very fine, VF20, example, with moderate wear flattening some details but the doubling still identifiable to the trained eye, might be $50 to $100. Below that, in fine, F12, or worse, where wear is heavy and details are significantly worn down, the doubling becomes much harder to see and authenticate, and the value plummets, perhaps to $10 to $30 if the doubling is still discernible. The color is another critical factor. A red, RD, coin, retaining its original mint red copper color, is always worth more than a red-brown, RB, coin that started to tone, which in turn is worth more than a brown, BN, coin that's fully toned. For the Denver RPM, the value scale is compressed but follows the same pattern. An MS-65 RD might be $300 plus, while an XF-45 could be $75 to $125, and a VF-20 may be $30 to $50. It can exist right under our noses, in coins produced by the billions, hidden by subtle errors that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. It challenges us to look closer, to question what we think we know about common coins, and to appreciate the intricate details and potential flaws that make each coin unique. The 2006 Lincoln cent isn't just pocket change. For those in the know, it's a field ripe for discovery, holding the potential for significant finds and adding a fascinating chapter to the ongoing story of American numismatics. Now, let's shift our focus back a few years to another penny that holds its own set of surprises. Alright, let's wind the clock back one more decade to 1983. This was a pivotal year for the humble Lincoln cent. Facing rising copper costs, the U.S. Mint made a significant switch in 1982, moving away from the traditional 95% copper composition to copper-plated zinc. By 1983, the zinc core with copper coating was the standard for business strikes. This transition year holds a special place for collectors, not just because of the composition change, but due to a specific, highly sought-after error, the 1983 double die reverse, DDR. While the 1993 penny wowed us with a design mix-up and the 2006 with dramatic obverse doubling, the 1983 DDR hides its value in the intricate details of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. It's a subtle variety, easily missed by the untrained eye, but one that commands serious respect and significant prices in today's market. Understanding the context is key. Amidst billions of newly minted zinc cents, a small number were struck from a reverse die that had been hubbed improperly, creating distinct doubling visible on the memorial building and its surroundings. Identifying the 1983 DDR requires a sharp eye and good magnification. The primary area to focus on is the Lincoln Memorial itself. Look closely at the steps leading up to the building. On a standard 1983 cent, these steps are relatively uniform. On the DDR variety, you'll see noticeable doubling on the steps. They appear thicker, almost like a shadow image slightly offset. This doubling is most prominent on the lower steps. Next, examine the columns of the memorial. The doubling often manifests as extra thickness or notching on the columns, particularly the ones on the left and right sides. Another key diagnostic is the lettering. Look at the words, 1 cent and United States of America. On the DDR, you'll find clear, strong doubling, especially on the letters N and E in 1 and the S in States. The doubling is generally stronger and more widespread on the reverse than the more subtle varieties seen in some other years. It's crucial to remember that this doubling is not due to wear or machine doubling, which is flat and shelf-like. It's true hub doubling, showing rounded, distinct secondary images. Like the 1993 wide AM, the 1983 DDR was a Philadelphia Mint phenomenon. Denver cents from 1983 do not exhibit this specific DDR. The variety circulated for years before being properly documented and recognized, allowing many examples to enter the collecting public unknowingly. The market value for the 1983 DDR reflects its scarcity and desirability among modern cent specialists. While it doesn't reach the dizzying heights of the 1993 wide AM in gem condition, it's undeniably a valuable coin. The auction record for a top-tier example is impressive. A PCGS graded MS-65 red 1983 DDR sold for $4,000 at a heritage auction in 2021. That's $4,000 for a penny minted during the Reagan administration. Even slightly less perfect uncirculated examples carry substantial premiums. An MS-64 red might fetch between $1,500 and $2,500, while an MS-63 red could still command $800 to $1,500. The value drops significantly in circulated grades, but remains strong. An about uncirculated, -58 Australian dollars, coin, showing just the faintest hint of wear but retaining most luster and clear doubling, could sell for $300 to $600. An extra fine, XF45, example, with light wear but strong, visible doubling on the steps and lettering, might be valued at $150 to $300. Even a very fine, VF20, coin, where wear is more evident but the key doubling is still identifiable under magnification, could be worth $75 to $150. The market for this variety is well established and active. Prices have shown steady appreciation over the past decade as more collectors complete their Lincoln Memorial cent sets and recognize the 1983 DDR as a key modern rarity. Finding one in circulation today is unlikely but not impossible, making the hunt part of the allure. The discovery story of the 1983 DDR shares similarities with the 1993 wide AM. It flew under the radar for years. Minted amidst the massive composition changeover, the subtle doubling on the reverse wasn't immediately apparent to most collectors or the public. It wasn't until the late 1990s and early 2000s, as interest in modern die varieties grew, that dedicated researchers began systematically examining 1983 cents. Collectors like Ken Potter and others, known for their meticulous work on modern errors, played a crucial role in documenting and popularizing this variety. They published findings, shared images, and provided clear attribution guides, allowing other collectors to identify examples in their own collections. This delayed discovery meant that many 1983 DDRs had already been pulled from circulation by chance, perhaps saved in jars, rolls, or inherited collections, long before their true value was known. This created a reservoir of examples waiting to be identified once the variety gained recognition. The story highlights the importance of ongoing research and sharing knowledge within the numismatic community. It proves that significant discoveries aren't always ancient history, they can be hiding in the coinage of the recent past, waiting for someone to connect the dots. As with the other pennies we've explored, condition is absolutely critical for the 1983 DDR, and the value differences between grades are substantial. The gap between a circulated example and a gem uncirculated one is vast. That $4,000 MS-65 red represents near perfection, full, blazing original luster, no wear whatsoever, no distracting marks, and exceptionally sharp, strong doubling throughout. An MS-64 red might have a couple of tiny marks or slightly less vibrant luster, dropping the value to the $1,500 to $2,500 range. MS-63 red coins, still uncirculated but perhaps with more noticeable marks or mellowing color, bring $800 to $1,500. Once you enter the about uncirculated, -58 Australian dollars, grade, where there's just the faintest trace of friction on the highest points like the Memorial roof or Lincoln's shoulder on the obverse, the value drops significantly to the $300 to $600 range. Extra fine, XF45, coins, showing light, even wear but with all major details sharp and the doubling clearly visible, are more commonly found and valued at $150 to $300. Very fine, VF20, examples, with moderate wear flattening details but the key doubling on the steps and letters still discernible, are worth $75 to $150. Below VF20, value diminishes rapidly as wear obscures the doubling. Color also plays a role. A full red, RD, coin commands a strong premium over a red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, example in the same grade. The bottom line is that for the 1983 DDR, preservation is paramount. A well-struck, lustrous, red uncirculated example with bold doubling is exponentially more valuable than a worn, toned, or weakly doubled specimen. So, we've journeyed through 3 decades of the Lincoln cent, 2006, 1993, and 1983, uncovering hidden treasures in coins most people wouldn't give a second glance. The 2006 wowed us with dramatic double die obverse, the 1993 amazed with its proof reverse mix-up creating the wide AM, and the 1983 showcased the subtle but valuable double die reverse on the Memorial. Each coin tells a unique story of a momentary anomaly at the mint, a flaw or mix-up that transformed an ordinary penny into a collector's prize. They highlight a crucial lesson for all of us: value in numismatics often lies not in age or metal content, but in scarcity, condition, and the story behind the coin. These modern rarities prove that significant discoveries are still possible, that valuable coins can be hiding in plain sight, and that careful examination and knowledge are the keys to unlocking that value. Whether you're a seasoned collector meticulously building sets or someone who just happens to have an old jar of pennies, taking a closer look at these specific years could reveal a surprise worth far more than 1 cent. Keep your eyes open, your magnifiers handy, and never underestimate the potential hidden within the most common coins. You never know what treasure might be waiting in your next roll of pennies. Thanks for joining me on this exploration of these remarkable modern Lincoln cent rarities. Happy hunting! Alright, let's turn the clock back to 1993. While the 2006 penny wowed us with dramatic doubling errors, the 1993 Lincoln cent hides its significant value in a much more subtle, yet equally fascinating, design variety. We're talking about the 1993 wide AM reverse. Now, for decades, the Lincoln Memorial reverse looked pretty consistent, right? But in 1993, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint, creating a rare variety that's now one of the most sought-after modern Lincoln cents. Understanding this requires looking at the design itself. On the vast majority of Lincoln Memorial cents minted from 1959 through 2008, the letters A and M in America on the reverse are very close together, almost touching. This is the standard close AM design. But in 1993, a small number of cents were struck using a reverse die intended for proof coins, coins made specifically for collectors with special polished dies. On proof dies, the A and M in America are noticeably farther apart, creating a distinct space between them. This is the wide AM variety. It wasn't an error in the traditional sense like a double die, it was the use of the wrong die type for business strikes. Think of it like using a fine artist's brush to paint a highway sign. The tool wasn't meant for the job, creating something unique and unintended. This mix-up meant that a tiny fraction of the over 6 billion pennies minted in Philadelphia in 1993 carry this distinctive, proof-like reverse design. The Denver Mint cents from 1993 all have the standard close AM, so the wide AM is exclusively a Philadelphia phenomenon. Identifying the 1993 wide AM is a rewarding challenge for collectors. The key giveaway is, of course, the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse. On a wide AM, you can clearly see daylight between the two letters. On a standard close AM, they are nearly touching, often appearing as a single connected shape at a glance. But the differences don't stop there. Look closely at the spacing between the letters in 1 cent below the memorial. On the wide AM variety, the letters are generally more spread out compared to the close AM. Another subtle clue is the spacing between the columns of the Lincoln Memorial building itself. The discovery created a wave of excitement in the collecting community, as people scrambled to check their 1993 cents and rolls from that year. So, what's the market reality for this elusive 1993 variety? Let's get to the numbers, and they are genuinely impressive. The absolute pinnacle for a 1993 wide AM is a pristine, gem uncirculated example. In a 2022 Heritage auction, a PCGS graded MS-67 red example, meaning virtually perfect, full original luster, no wear, and no significant marks, sold for a staggering $14,400. That's not a typo, nearly $14,500 for a single penny. This sale shattered previous records and cemented the 1993 wide AM as a true modern rarity. Even slightly less perfect uncirculated examples command huge premiums. An MS-66 red might fetch between $5,000 and $8,000, while an MS-65 red could still bring $2,000 to $4,000. The value drops significantly once you enter the circulated grades, but it remains substantial. An about uncirculated, -58 Australian dollars, piece, showing just the slightest hint of friction on the highest points but retaining most of its luster, could sell for $500 to $1,000. An extra fine, XF45, coin, with light, even wear but all major details sharp and the wide AM spacing clearly visible, might be valued at $200 to $400. Even a well-worn very fine, VF20, example, where the design is flattened but the key AM spacing is still discernible with magnification, could command $100 to $200. The story of the 1993 wide AM is a classic numismatic detective tale. For over 12 years after its minting, these coins circulated freely, completely unrecognized for what they were. They were just pennies. The breakthrough came not from a major institution, but from dedicated collectors meticulously examining their holdings. The delayed discovery is a huge part of the variety's charm and value. It meant that many examples had already entered the secondary market, hidden in collections, jars, and dealer stock, waiting to be found. It also meant that some high-grade examples had been preserved by chance, perhaps by non-collectors who simply saved a roll of new pennies. The hunt for the 1993 wide AM became a phenomenon within the hobby, demonstrating that even in the relatively recent past, significant discoveries were still waiting to be made by observant individuals. It underscores a fundamental truth in numismatics: you never know what might be hiding in plain sight until someone takes the time to look closely. Condition, as always, is the dominant factor in determining the value of a 1993 wide AM, but the gap between grades is particularly steep due to the variety's inherent scarcity and high demand. Let's break down the value ladder. At the very top, you have the MS-67 red coins. These are the unicorns. They exhibit flawless surfaces, intense, original mint red luster without a hint of toning, and exceptionally sharp strikes. Finding one in this condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, hence the $14,400 price tag. MS-66 red coins are nearly as nice but might have a couple of tiny, barely noticeable marks or a microscopic area where the luster isn't quite perfect. These are still incredibly rare and command $5,000 to $8,000. MS-65 red coins are more attainable for serious collectors but still represent top-tier preservation. They might show a few more minor marks or perhaps a hint of mellowing red color, but they are visually stunning and worth $2,000 to $4,000. Once you drop below MS-65, the value decreases more rapidly, but remains strong. MS-64 red coins might be $1,000 to $2,000, while MS-63 red could be $600 to $1,200. The shift to circulated grades brings another significant drop. A negative $58 coin, technically uncirculated but with the faintest trace of rub on Lincoln's cheek or the memorial steps, might fetch $500 to $1,000. XF45 coins, showing light, even wear but with all major details crisp and the wide AM spacing unambiguous, are more common in the marketplace and typically sell for $200 to $400. VF20 examples, with moderate wear flattening details but the key AM gap still identifiable under magnification, are often found by careful searchers and valued around $100 to $200. Below VF20, the value falls off sharply because wear makes confirming the variety much harder and the coin loses its eye appeal. Fine, F12 examples might only be worth $20 to $50 if the spacing is still verifiable. Color also plays a role, though less dramatically than with the 2006 DDO. A full red, RD, coin always commands a premium over a red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, example in the same grade. The critical takeaway is that for the 1993 wide AM, condition isn't just important, it's the primary driver of value, with pristine examples reaching truly astronomical prices for a modern cent. This makes finding a high-grade example the ultimate prize for collectors hunting this variety. The 1993 wide AM Lincoln cent holds a special place in the hearts of modern coin collectors. It represents the perfect storm of factors that create numismatic value: a clear, visually identifiable difference from the norm, extreme scarcity relative to the massive mintage, a compelling discovery story, and strong, sustained demand from collectors. For those building sets of Lincoln Memorial cents, the 1993 wide AM is the ultimate key date, the coin that makes or breaks a high-quality set. Its value isn't based on a dramatic error like a double strike or off-center S. They can be hiding in the coinage of our own lifetimes, waiting for a knowledgeable eye to recognize their significance. It challenges us to look beyond the obvious, to appreciate the subtle details, and to understand that sometimes, the most valuable discoveries are the ones hiding in plain sight. Now, let's journey back another decade to explore another penny from the 1980s that holds its own set of valuable secrets.